morning. Can we just start with an injury update firstly? How's Alexander Isak doing?
Yeah, Alex is making progress. He's not available for this game. So yeah, I don't think we're too different from previously.
You haven't picked up any new injuries during the week then?
Not at the moment, no. Still training to go.
Emil Kraft is someone you've been without since August with that long-term knee injury that he's sustained. How is his recovery going?
Slow progress for Emil, yeah. It's a serious injury. He is back in Sweden at the moment with his family in the early stages of his rehab. Knowing Emil, he will do his work and he will be very dedicated to that. But yeah, very disappointed for him because he was an important part of our squad, and yeah, we're missing him.
Back-to-back wins for the first time this season, and it took you into the top 6. How good has the mood and the level of confidence been this week? Because it must be a nice place to be. Yeah,
winning is so important. It changes everything. It changes perception. It changes feeling. The players have trained very well this week. There's been a bounce and a buzz around the group. Yeah, I'm keen to make sure that the dangers that come with winning don't rear their head, so complacency or overconfidence. So it's a very thin line to getting the optimum performance, and we've been pushing the group this week to want more. Is this the best state to be in, do you think, to go into such a big game and a tough game like Manchester United away rather than going into it in bad form? Yeah, very much so. I think these games are very difficult at the best of times, but I think if you can go to these games with confidence and with a good feeling in the group, it gives you the best chance of a positive result. We know the next group of games are tough games, but we're going to try and, as we always try and do, attack them, rise to the occasion and give our all to try and get another positive result. Manchester United didn't start the season particularly well, but they've had a good couple of months. What do you make of the way that they've turned around their form in recent weeks? Yeah, I think they've got outstanding individual players, a very, very good manager who I think will do a great job there. So I think they're now going to develop their philosophy and their style of play, and I think you can see that already emerging, and they've given some very good displays. I think there's promising signs for them as a team. From our side, I think we have to go into every game with no fear and believing that we can win, and the performance levels have been very high, and we're looking for the same again. You touched on it a moment ago, but it's a 3-game week for you, 2 of them away from home. How much will you need your entire squad, all of the players, including those who've maybe been in and out in recent matches? Yeah, we're going to need everybody. I think you're right, the 3-game weeks are a test, especially with our style of play and how we want to deliver very energetic physical performances. I think you need everyone at their optimum level, so it's a chance potentially for the squad to show how strong it is, and individuals will get an opportunity. Potentially, as I say, it's very difficult for me to predict what will happen, but the whole squad needs to be ready. And the last thing, you've got a month to go until the season pauses for the World Cup. What will you do during the break? Have you decided on a training camp, friendlies, going away? How's it going to work? Yeah, I think we've decided on how the schedule looks for the players. There will be a mixture of things, potentially going away, nothing finalised there. Yes, friendlies, a bit of rest for the players, and then work to sort of like a mini pre-season to get ready again for the second half of the season.
Okay. Eddie, how pleased are you with the way the likes of Murphy and Almiron have stepped up their games in recent week, especially when you've got a week like this with 3 matches? It feels like you've got real options now.
Yeah, I think those players that you mentioned have done a great job for the team. Different stories really behind both of them, but Miggy's scoring goals and in a really good place at the moment, and Murph's has come in the last 2 games and I think given very, very good performances for the team and individually for him. Great to see him score last week as well. So yeah, I think there's competition there when you see how good Ryan Fraser is as well, and Maxi, and he speaks for himself. Jolinton came on and played wide briefly the other day, so we've got really good options in that position. But we're going to need them because every game's different, the challenge is different, there's different physical demands as well. So I'm very pleased to have that strong group.
I know a few weeks ago, I think you spoke about Bruno and the links with Real Madrid. He spoke after the game last week saying that he had a conversation with them in the summer. That's all it was. He wants to stay here a long time. How did that make you feel?
You're telling me things I don't know, Keith. So yeah, I mean, we desperately want Bruno to first be happy here, to enjoy his football, to see a long-term vision here, and I think time will tell on that. We have to get the team in a good place. We have to build positively, and I think as long as a player sees progression in the team and he sees an ambition in the club, I think hopefully we can fulfil the needs of everybody here, because we want to build a team. I think we're in the very early stages of that, so we don't want to disrupt the group we have. We want to add quality the other way. That's the aim.
Where is he on the scale as to where you thought he would be and what kind of player he was before he arrived? Is he as good as you thought? Is he better than you thought? And how good is it to see his relationship that he seems to have with the Newcastle supporters?
The reason I'm laughing, that's a trick question, that one. Can't win whatever answer I give. I'd just say he's done unbelievably well. And I think I said this the other day, that the thing that has pleasantly surprised me is because you never quite know your relationship with a player when you sign. You never quite know how that will gel between me and him and the squad. It's a lot of guesswork. But that has been the most pleasant surprise for me. He's fitted in so well, and he's epitomised really the team spirit and the drive that we need to be successful. And I think the supporters have seen that and taken to him from day one. So off the pitch, absolutely brilliant. But I think on the pitch, he speaks for himself. I don't think I have to really comment too much on his performances.
You touched with Razor there on Man United. It looked at the start of the season that they were maybe a bit fragile. I think that'd probably be the best way to say it. A couple of heavy defeats for them. Do you feel that they're over that spell now and beginning to settle in?
Yeah, very much so. I think whenever there's change, I think at a football club it's difficult. Initially, it can go one or two ways. It can go really well at the start, or sometimes you can find it difficult, as I found here. But I think they've got top quality players and a top quality manager, and I think eventually things gel and start to form. And Eric's philosophy, I loved watching his team at Ajax, and he built the club to a very, very strong position when he left. I've got no doubt he'll do the same at Manchester United. And
the players that they can call upon, we all know what they've got in the attack, but even when you look at the midfield now, you see the likes of Casemiro and Eriksen, Fernandes. I mean, they're such a strong outfit still, aren't they?
Technically, they're excellent players. They're very creative. So for us going into this game, we know that that's a huge part of their team. But it's not just those players. Then you look further forward, they've got world-class players in every position. So we're under no illusions that it's a very difficult task for us. But when you look back to our games against Manchester City, Liverpool, we've given really good displays, and we've been unlucky not to get more points from those two games. And I think this is in a similar bracket to that type of challenge. So hopefully we can raise our levels again.
And just finally, a big match at St James's Park tomorrow again with the Rugby League World Cup. Obviously a good thing for the city, a good thing for the supporters getting along to watch it. You worried about your pitch?
I've been assured by the groundsman that it'll have no effect, so yes, that was my first thought when I heard about the game.
Especially a game on Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. But no, the pitches now, they're so well built and so solid, and our groundsmen have been very, very good. I have to compliment them, and not just the stadium pitch, but the training pitches that we work on every day are very good.
Thanks,
no problem.
Well, Eddie, when your side beat a team 5-1 at the weekend and your striker says you were still off it a little bit, that must be absolutely belting for a manager to hear that level of ruthlessness, I suppose, from your players.
It's good to hear, because I think there's an honesty attached to, I take it as Callum. Yeah, saying what he thought, and I think there was maybe a bit of inner frustration that he didn't score one of those goals as well. So I want high standards and high demands from each other. So I'll be very critical with the team when I need to be, but also very supportive when I need to be. I think that's a massive part of my role. I think after the game on Saturday, it was very positive. Yes, there's things we could have done better, but we had to take all the positives from that big win.
Apparently Bruno's wife doesn't like it, but if peroxide hair results in that level of performance, how worried are you about coming into training one morning and finding your entire team looking like Romania back in 1998?
I was thinking of doing it myself, see if it made a difference to me. But no, yeah, I actually quite like it on Bruno. I think it's again, it's a different part of his personality. I don't quite know what the hair means, but he's just a special person, so he's got special hair to go with it.
Well avoided. He said in his first press conference that he wanted to be a legend at this club. Given his performances on the pitch, certainly, but like Keith alluded to, his popularity off the pitch as well, how far away do you see him in being and becoming a legend at this club?
That's a difficult one for me, because I'm new here, so yeah, obviously I'm aware of the Newcastle legends of the past, and I embrace that, and I want my players to aspire to be the next one. So if that's part of his motivation, then I'm all for it. And for me, he has the ability, he has the character and the personality to be that people talk about, that player that people talk about for years to come. But he's at the start of it, and hopefully he'll get there.
I know you're a humble bloke, but how much immense satisfaction does it give you to see the work that everyone's clearly doing on the training ground paying off so handsomely with the likes of Miggy Almiron, Joe Linton, Emil Kraft, to name just three?
Well, I always say that the players take ownership of their performance, certainly not me. We try and help them, give them a platform and a body of work that they can express themselves in the best way, but the players always have to take ownership of good performances, bad performances. But we're here to support them and help them get to their best level. So those players that you talk about, they deserve all the credit for what they're delivering.
We've seen the last week, Darren Eales has spoken on BBC Radio Newcastle and to papers as well. Yasir Al-Rahman, the chairman. I know that's good for the supporters, but from your perspective, from the players' perspective as well, how good is it to see that level of open communication from the hierarchy here?
I think it's important that everybody hears, or everybody associated with the club has a feeling that we're a team behind the team. It's not just one person, it's a real collective strength, really, because I think you've got that feeling of strength when you've got good people working with the same aim. We do have that here, and I just think it's nice for everybody else to be aware of it. We've got really good personalities pushing and driving the club to hopefully its very best levels in the future. So I think it was a great week for that, in terms of getting the messages out there to the supporters and making them aware of the work that's going on behind the scenes.
And just finally, we're talking to Rez about this next 3-game block: Manchester United, of course, Everton, then Spurs. How much will this block show us what Newcastle could be this season, do you feel?
Yeah, I think it's a big week for us. I'm not going to hide from that. I think that the 2 away games are very tough. There'll be big challenges for us. It'll give us a good marker of where we are. I think getting points at this early stage of the season is hugely important as well, because the league is starting to take shape, and we want to be in and around where we currently are now. The points difference between us and falling a long way down the league is very small. So that's why it's important that we keep our forward momentum.
Thanks, Eddie. Best of luck.
Hi, Eddie. I just want to talk about Guimarães again. Do you think, in terms of value for money, that was an excellent deal for the club? 35 million plus add-ons seems like peanuts. It's ridiculous to say, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think I was asked this question the other day, and my answer was in agreement with that, really. I think if we were given the choice, would we do the deal again? Yes, in a heartbeat, without a moment's hesitation. And I think that's always the yardstick in terms of where you think the deal stands in time. And only time will tell on all transfers whether it's a good deal or a bad deal. Certainly at the moment, that looks fantastic business.
We talked about Dan Ashworth and Darren Eales speaking to the media, and we've heard a lot about the strategy of the club, of those things off the pitch. We know that you're very much part of their long-term strategy. So I just wondered, how much dialogue have they had with you about plans for the club in the future, from extending the stadium and so on? Do they keep you up to date with those plans?
I think probably in terms of the stadium things, yeah, I will hear bits and pieces rather than say a daily or a weekly update. I think these things are going on behind the scenes. They're important, and the club needs to keep moving and progressing. And I think things like the stadium and trying to make any improvements that we can to help the supporters, then I'm all for. But these are things really that they're specialist fields, and I will just concentrate really on the team.
And we've touched on it, St James's Park is taking centre stage for the Rugby League World Cup, which starts tomorrow. Will you or the players be going to any games? Will you be keeping an eye on what goes on?
Being honest, I haven't really given it a second thought until you've asked me the question, but I'll definitely be keeping track of results. In terms of a game, probably not, but I wish all the countries all the luck.
Thanks very much.
Pleasure.
Okay, thank you, broadcasters. Jordan? You mentioned last week about John Joe Shelby potentially training. Has he trained, and when can you expect him to be back?
Yeah, he's getting closer. He has trained. Not necessarily full training at this moment in time, but he's very, very close, and he's doing very well.
And just Matt Ritchie as well, he hasn't been in the last few squads. Is there an injury with him? And again, so when can you expect him to be back?
Yeah, Matt's picked up a calf problem. Yeah, we don't know whether he'll be back before the World Cup break. but he's doing well.
Thanks.
Craig?
Kieran Trippier, from being potentially third choice right back, there's a chance now, depending on the results of Reece James's scanning, he could go into the World Cup as England's first choice right back. Would England be in safe hands if that were the case?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just look at his performances this year. I think he's been incredible for us. I mean, even last year, in the very brief time that he played, he made a massive impact here in terms of on the pitch and off the pitch in terms of his leadership. And now he's continuing to do the same, and obviously we're seeing more of him now because he's been fitter for longer. But just look at the goal the other day that we scored, the first goal, which is always, I think, game-changing, that first moment in the match, and it's his cross from the corner, which can be really underestimated how difficult that skill is to put it where Bruno needed it to be to score. So it's an incredible highlight really of his technical quality, but also his defending's been of a very good level. So yeah, I can't speak highly enough of him.
Have you had that England conversation with him as all of his competitors continue to drop? Have you joked about it with him or spoken about it with him seriously?
No, we discuss a lot of things, and I think England is something we have discussed. I wouldn't necessarily talk to him about what's happening in terms of the right back situation at the moment. I just want him to concentrate on his football and not overthink things, because that can be a dangerous thing. So it's just getting him in a good place. The same with every player, getting in a good place to play at his best level in the next game, and the long-term picture takes care of itself.
Damien?
Eddie, just on that theme, firstly, Kieran being your first signing, how key was that to what you were able to do afterwards? Sort of England's fullback has decided to go there. It must be a good idea in terms of what you were able to bring in afterwards.
I think it certainly helped. I mean, it wasn't necessarily our intention to make our first signing a statement signing, however you want to label it. But I do think it was a good thing, looking back, that it was Kieran, because I think it hopefully helped us with what followed. I think players look at the calibre of player you're signing, and if he wants to come, it must be a good environment. People are look at things like that. So I think Kieran was, again, very, very good in our discussions with him. There was no fear from him about coming to a team that was in the relegation zone or potential of being relegated. He was like, no, I want to fight. I want to come, and I'll help the team stay in the league. That was very much his mindset, and of all the players we signed, they all followed suit with that feeling, and I definitely think that helped when they were in the building.
Ian?
Morning, Eddie.
Morning.
Newcastle are a growing club on the pitch and off it. Can they ever be as big as Manchester United?
I've always said this. I don't like to put ceilings on individual players. I never put a ceiling on a club either. My history, you got to realise, from Bournemouth, that were associated as a League One, League Two team, predominantly League One, but a League One, League Two team. We've seen now grow into a Premier League team. So why not? And I think the aim of this club is, the ambitions behind the scenes are huge. Now, I've always said we've got to try and deliver those huge ambitions, and that will take time. But there's no ceiling here. When you see the passion around the city, you see the thing that always blows me away is the young people here, 12, 13, 14-year-olds, their passion for Newcastle. It's running through generations, so that won't stop. And I think what will happen, hopefully, is the global brand and the global enthusiasm for Newcastle will grow.
I mean, Manchester United, you talk about the passion of the city, which is quite right. Manchester United, I think, are the best supported club in Ireland, the best supported club in Indonesia, China. I mean, can you see the day when Newcastle are in the same bracket?
Potentially, because that's why I said the global support will definitely, I think, change through time if the club can be successful. And put more pressure on myself here, but that's the challenge, and I think that's where the club wants to be. So who knows what the future looks like in 20, 30 years.
Luke, you pretended not to hear me on Saturday evening when I asked the question, but I want to make sure you hear me this time. People are talking about you now as potential European contenders, partly because of league position, partly because of your form since January last year. How does that sit with you at the moment?
That sits with me fine. If people want to do that and link us with those positions, then I've got no issue with that. I think we have to remain very level and calm internally. Now, I know our form has been good consistently for a period of time, but form can change, and I think my job is to keep everyone grounded internally, keep the players very focused on the short-term objectives. We have a group of games now coming up before the World Cup, and we need to continue to be successful and to pick up points. And if we can do that and go into the turn of the year in a good position, then yeah, rightly so. But it can change, and as I've said, the points totals in the league's very condensed. It only takes a bad run of form then to knock you off your target. So I'm very relaxed about the situation at the moment. I know we need to pick up points in these tough games we have coming up.
And you are playing two of the other top six teams, aren't you, this week? For you to be seriously considered as one of those top teams, do you need a statement win against one of those teams? Do you?
I'm not looking for statement wins. I'm just looking for wins. I'm just looking to try and win our next game. So I always let you guys do your job, but my focus has to be day to day and week to week, and that's what it will be.
And how do you feel? I mean, what did you make of Dan Ashworth's comments this week, for example? I think that we were talking before the press conference. Newcastle have got people worried at the moment. I think the English establishment are slightly worried. The established order of Europe are probably a little bit worried. Again, is that something you consider as Newcastle manager, or do you just let all of that noise swirl around outside?
Predictable answer.
I know. I've given you the easy.
You've given me the easy option. I'm gonna. I've got no interest in terms of I've got interest in what Dan says. I've got no interest. I've got no interest. I have to be careful in terms of what you guys have to say, because it will be a lot of opinion and a lot of predicting of the future, and we can't get involved in that. It's a waste of my energy and the team's energy. Let's just focus on trying to win our next match.
But it's good that, going on to Dan and Darren speaking this week, that's a good thing for the football club, that they have conveyed messages that, from people who are fundamentally above you in terms of the structure of the football club.
I think it's hugely important that we hear from people internally from the football club, and they give their vision and they explain their work. There's a lot of good work, as I say, going on. A lot of care going into the academy, going into the training ground, going into the infrastructure of the football club, and I do think, obviously I will convey that, but I do think it's important that other people do the same.
Sorry, just one more. If you had a preference, would you prefer to stay at St James's Park? And one of the things they said in those interviews is that they would like to stay at St James's Park. Would that be for you as the kind of spiritual home in Newcastle to stay in the city centre? Without a doubt. When I look around, and as I've said this many times, but you just see the stadium every turn. I think that's such a powerful thing. I wouldn't want to change that at all. If we can improve and enhance the match day experience for supporters, we'll try and do that in every way that we can. But for me, it's our home. Thank you.
Okay. Miles? You said Isak wouldn't make the game on Sunday. Is there a chance he could feature next week?
Difficult to say at this moment in time. I'd probably say that the 3-game week might be difficult.
And obviously, Maxim's had another week's training. Is he in contention to start on Sunday?
He's in contention, yeah.
Okay. Lee?
Just on that front three, Murphy's probably, it looks like he's undroppable at the moment after 2 good games, but someone is going to be disappointed one way or another on Sunday.
Not everyone. A lot of players are disappointed every time I name a team. That's the reality of my job. I think the pleasing thing against Brentford was we had real strength in depth. From the bench I could make changes that I think helped our performance. That hasn't always been the case this season. That's so important tool for me to have on match day. So everyone's going to have a chance to play. Congested period of games coming up, a massive period before the World Cup break. So yeah, everyone's got a big part to play.
Elliot Anderson, I know Scotland are desperate to give him a cap and get him up there, but he's obviously got the England option. What would your advice be to him with potentially 2 countries pushing to give him a cap?
I think it's very difficult for me to get involved. I think that's Elliot's call to make. I don't know. I've not had a conversation with him about what he sees his long-term vision being in terms of international football. But I would back him. Whatever decision he made, I would support him.
Do you think he's at that level yet? Do you think he would deserve a full international cap at the moment?
That's a difficult one. I'd say he's definitely building towards that. I've seen a huge progression in his overall game. When I watch him train now, he's very impressive. He's pushing the guys that are in the team. He's putting pressure on them in a positive way. So every time he's come onto the pitch, I thought he did well against Fulham. I thought he got a good run out there, and I think he's going to get more game time for sure throughout the season. He's going to be a very important player for us.
And just finally, last night, I'm sure you would have watched Man United. Do you learn anything from a night like that, going into a game like this?
Yeah, I think you always learn. Yeah, I did watch. I've watched a lot of Manchester United, as I do every opponent that we play. So you're always looking for things that you can help your players with and build our game plan going into the match. So yeah, last night was useful.
Martin?
On Man United, Eddie, do you have the best Bruno in the Premier League now?
I think Bruno Fernandes is a fantastic player, and I think they've got actually a lot of similarities to their games, both technically very good. Maybe Bruno Fernandes plays a little bit higher up the pitch, but our Bruno can do exactly the same. He's got the versatility of playing deeper. Two great technicians, and I enjoy watching both of them play.
How has Bruno Guimarães added goals to his game since he's came here?
It's a strange one. It's a strange positive thing for us, because when we signed him, we didn't think we were getting goals as part of his game, to be honest. His goal record wasn't something that we looked at and thought, well, we would be able to change that and add goals to his game. I think it's just happened organically and naturally because he's a very, very good player. I mean, the goal from the corner is, if he's not the player chosen to do that role, he doesn't score. So he's been given a boost of confidence there aerially, and he's taken it. So the second goal is all down to him, where he has the aggressive defensive understanding to win the ball first, and then takes the responsibility to shoot and scores. Hopefully there's more in him. He's just a very good player.
Can you describe in detail how he plays the game?
Cool, how long you got? That's a long one. He's just, I think he's very, very good off the ball because he has a drive to want to win the ball back. So I think out of possession he's really grasped what we want him to do, but I think that comes down to his passion to want to win. He wants the ball. He wants to help us defensively by having a very aggressive instinct on the ball. Again, I think his performances speak for themselves. He wants the ball in every situation. He's confident and he's creative. He will see the unexpected, and he's capable of delivering a pass that no one can see on the pitch. And that's definitely helped us when we got him higher up the pitch.
Chris?
Morning, Eddie. Dan Burns played left back a fair amount this season. Is that something you see, a position you see him playing long term a lot, or is that just being needs must?
It's definitely a position he can play, and he can play very well. We were aware when we signed him he had that versatility. For Brighton he played left back and left wing back, left side centre half. Would probably be, I'd say, if you ask Dan, probably his preferred position. But he's the type of character that will play anywhere that the team needs in that moment, and he's a very, very giving personality. So I think he enjoys playing left back because it enables him to get higher up the pitch. So I'm loving working with Dan, and his versatility is going to be very important for us.
In terms of Matt Targett, why hasn't he been in the team, and is he close to being back in the team?
I think Matt, before the Fulham game, if I remember rightly, was ill. We've had a few illnesses going around the camp, different things. He picked up quite a serious illness that kept him out, I think, for about 3-4 days from training. So we felt he was a bit light of training going into that game. We moved down to left back, and the last two results have spoken for themselves.